Welcome to Elephants in the Room, presented by the Republican Party of Pasco, with your hosts Sandy Graves and Yvette Beamer.
Hello everybody, Yvette Beamer
and Sandy Graves
with Elephants in the Room, presented to you by the Republican Party of Pasco. And I just have to say, we are honored to have Senator John Legg with us, and we're going to have a great show. We have a lot of questions, and we know he has the answers. So thank you, and we'll be right back. Senator John Legg, you found time to come visit Elephants in the Room.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And just to correct, and I hate to correct you off the bat, but I'm a former senator. It's been about 10 years since I was there. So I'm just John.
You're just John. We don't mind being.
Doesn't that live with you forever?
No, it dies when you leave office. That's
really?
How
So we were educated. We're being educated. I have no problem being corrected. I think that's part of the problem. In America, people have a problem. They don't want to be corrected in their actions. So
it's nice when people do it, but I'm just John. So
just
but
John.
You are running for another title, aren't you?
Oh,
yes.
I am.
You
I
have
am.
filed.
Yeah. So I've filed. So a lot of folks may or may not know, but I did have the opportunity to be elected for 12 years in the Florida legislature. Many moons ago. But my passion is education. I'm an educator over 25 years. Actually, I have a doctorate in education. So my master's is in public administration. My doctorate is in education. Matter of fact, I'm one of the few people in the U.S. that has a doctorate degree in education innovation. It's kind of because education's changing. Education's not the same as it was, 30 years ago.
We know that to be a fact.
So I'm running for Pasco superintendent.
Okay.
Pasco is an elected superintendent. Our current superintendent, Kurt Browning, has been doing it for several years, but has announced that he's not running for re-election.
Right.
So, we threw our name in the hat, and we believe that we can do some good things for our kids in our community.
I believe you can too, and part of the REC goal is to get Republicans elected. So we have you here because we want to know what is the most needed in Pasco in our schools.
Sure. The needs are great. The needs are great, and I've been doing education now for 25 years. Actually, had the opportunity to start a school 20 years ago. Actually, it's 25 years ago now.
Right.
Day Spring Academy.
Right. Very
You
successful.
were kind of at the beginning of forming
Yeah.
charter school.
We're now one of the
Charter
oldest.
schools weren't.
Yeah, we were. There was nothing. So we're the oldest one in Pasco. One of the oldest in the state of Florida. We actually have 6 campuses. We have over 1,400 students in our school. I've been a teacher, administrator, principal, you name it. We've done it all. But the biggest needs for our students out there right as today is literacy. Reading. Our reading scores have plummeted, not just in Pasco, not just in Florida, but all over the U.S.
Right.
Since the pandemic, basically.
It was actually trending before the pandemic.
Oh, really?
And
it just didn't help it.
It just did not help it.
It didn't help it.
The researchers indicate, the reason why it's falling is really something that, was kind of thrust upon us, and we didn't know how to handle it back in 2012. And that's the advent of the iPhone.
Right.
The iPhone, and not cell phone. I don't use the word cell phone to be synonymous with smartphone. The cell phone of the 1990s, is completely different.
The flip
phone, the flip phone.
It all went after the flip phone got flipped back up.
The reading scores have gone down dramatically. There are some schools right now in West Pasco that less than 20% of the students at those schools are reading that grade level.
Oh my goodness.
And not just one schools. We're talking multiple schools.
Yeah.
And the numbers keep falling. And the research is really strongly correlated that the younger that our students have been exposed to smartphones, the more dramatic the reading losses have occurred in those students. So right now, the number one issue, because we know reading is the key. Reading is the key. We know right now that we're at a reading crisis, not only in Pasco, but not only Florida, but our whole nation.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So what is going to be implemented then? Well, I'm sure that, that's the problem. What's the source? How are we going to correct that?
Solution.
Solution.
Well, there's
Thank
never.
you, Sandy.
Yeah. No, there's never a simple solution.
Right.
So anyone that comes, I call them snake oil salesmen, when they say this is the one solution. There is no such thing as a one solution. But there's multiple strategies that you can do. Number one is limit cell phones at a young age in the classroom. There's clinical data out there that shows that a student is distracted once every 6 minutes
Oh, wow.
in a classroom with the cell phones. Not just having it on, but just having it around them.
Right.
It's almost like an addiction. They want to see it. And I'm very
I
happy.
can speak to that addiction.
Yeah, you know.
You're a dingo.
So you know, one of the first things that we have to do is we have to understand we don't give alcohol to minors. We don't give gambling to minors. We don't give tobacco to minors. Why? Because of the addictive nature of it.
That's right.
We have to. I'm not saying we prohibit cell phones for everyone, but in a classroom environment,
Oh, I think you should.
it has to be limited.
Yeah.
It has to be limited because those youngsters, wonderful youngsters, can't help it.
Right.
So that's part of the solution. And then we have to focus on reading strategies. We have to mastery reading. You know, we know right now if you don't master reading by 3rd grade,
Right.
the opportunities for you to advance are severely limited. So we have to get back to
Isn't there
literacy.
even a correlation between 3rd grade reading at 3rd grade level and prison? Do you know?
Yes, if you
Wow.
look at your 3rd grade reading scores, you can also predict your
Isn't that
college.
something?
I mean your prison
Yeah.
in 15
Possibilities
years.
are-
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
It's very important. I do think it also, I think what we need too as a strategy is get the parents on board in terms of, and I think that has happened, one of the things that, you could say was a positive thing that happened with COVID is that the parents got more involved
Yeah.
in their children's studies and exactly what they were being taught. And so now I think we take it the rest of the way and say, okay, now that you know this and now that you're involved,
Yeah.
let's get you more involved and say enough, maybe even at the home level, let's limit it or let's get them used to the fact that they don't need to have their phone all the time.
No, and I'm guilty of this as anyone else.
Yes.
And the thing is where do children learn this behavior? They learn it from their parents being
Yeah.
on their cell phones.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to limit yourself as an adult, put it away. You're modeling behavior for your students. You know, one of the fundamental values that I hold is that children were given to parents, not the government. You know, parents
Thank you.
parents are responsible
Right.
for their children, and they have to be engaged. They're the ones that drive the children's education. Now, there's another side to that coin, but parents are also the one responsible.
Right.
They can't just drop their children off at school and say, "Teacher, you teach the student, and we do nothing else."
Right.
It is
It's not their babysitter.
It's not their babysitter. Parental engagement, it equals parental choice. They
Right.
go hand in hand, and one does not work without the other.
And I agree with you. When we were growing up, obviously, my mom, my dad, did you get your homework done? Do you need help? They were involved. They made sure that you followed through on some of these just simple, basic things of being responsible for your own education and making sure that your kids are getting educated. Because, like you said, that education means that you're coming out of the poverty. You can come out of poverty. Your chances and your opportunities are just as much as the next person who might be going to Yale or Harvard or Stanford if you learn how to read and you know how to communicate.
If you can read, you can survive.
Yes.
You can graduate from anything if you're able
Yes.
to read because you can read the books.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to ask you was, are there any literacy programs that regular people can volunteer for to help out?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that what some of our social scientists out there, sometimes they come on fads, and those fads are not always good for children.
Right.
You know, one of the things that does work, what people back in 20 years ago believed this whole language reading. It was where you use sight words, and that's how you learn to read. And what research has said is that doesn't work. That doesn't
Right.
help our kids read. What works is phonics. Phonics, basic
Old
phonics,
school.
old school
Come on
phonics
now.
work.
How about
And-
mine?
Yeah, that's a bipartisan consensus.
Yes.
Phonics, it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrats, phonics work.
It does.
You're
yeah.
learning how to sound out words at an early age. What I would say is be involved, learn phonics, help your children sound out words.
Mhm.
Don't walk them through it. Because when they know how to read and empower that reading skills and gain those literacy skills, it takes them the rest of their life. Don't go to whole language.
Right.
Go to phonics.
Well, the other thing too, if you think about that, so you had phonics and you had the way to sound the word out, and then you had on the other side of it was spelling.
Mm-hmm.
And now we like autocorrect and
I'm
and teaching
guilty
us.
as that of
I am
Grammarly.
too.
I use Grammarly.
Yes,
We all do it.
I love it because I'm Southern. I need it. I'm saying some things that ain't grammar. But my point
I didn't even
is,
know there was Grammarly.
there is, and
Here's my
it
college
helps.
handbook.
It does help when you're writing a letter and you might, like you said, maybe didn't pay attention in spelling and all that kind of stuff. But my point is that old school, I feel like we obviously can bring it into this, the future, bring it into now, but it's a constant. It's something that works, and why take it away? Handwriting. What are we teaching our children? Any type of handwriting,
Well, just to kind of go on what you're saying, and if you look at, I use this analogy of mastery.
Mm-hmm.
When mastery of language, mastery of reading, mastery of mathematics skills, it's like a house. When you build a house, if you're building a skyscraper, if you build the first floor of the house and you only have 70% mastery, then you put the second floor of the house, you only have 70% mastery.
Oh.
You have the third floor, 70% mastery. You're going to hit to a level, around level grade 6.
Yeah.
That 60% of mastery
Right.
is not going to cut it when you keep adding the stuff on top of it. What is so important in grades K through 3, especially K through 3,
Right.
is mastery of those reading skills and those literacy skills. Because if they aren't mastered, the rest of the stories on top of that house
Right.
are really going to be unstable.
It is, and it definitely can, affect your future when you're
Mm-hmm.
want to go to college and you want to get out of that, out of the situation that you might be in generationally or whatever. But so with you running for a superintendent of school board, now you run a very successful charter school,
Mm-hmm.
Dayspring Academy. How is that going to differ from going into the school district now, where there's some federal stuff going on? Yeah, public schools.
Well, again, I would say I don't want to correct anyone, but just that charter schools are public schools. And that's
Okay.
a common misnomer. Charter schools are public schools, and
There you have it.
they are public schools. And when we started, we were the first one 20 some years ago, and I get asked a question quite a bit, like, well, why did you go to do a charter school versus just going to a traditional public school setting? And the answer is very simple. Because going to charter schools, we were able to do creative things that our regular traditional schools at that time were not able to do.
Right.
We were able to do arts programs, STEM programs, which stands for science, technology, engineering, arts,
Right.
and
Which
math.
they are doing now.
They are doing that.
Which they are now allowed to do because charter schools paves the way to allow that innovations.
That's the competitions.
That's that competition. That CTE programs did not exist in the way they do now unless it was for school choice and parental choice. And one of the things that we've been successful of at Dayspring is because we've had a waiting list of 2,000 to 3,000 students every year to get into school of all income levels. There's no requirement. And the reason why we were successful is because we were allowed to innovate.
Right.
Because of Governor DeSantis and Governor Rick Scott, public schools now have more flexibility. 5 years ago, we did not have the magnet schools we have here in Pasco. We did not have Kirkland Academy, Wendell Crinn. We didn't have the pathways, the teacher pathways, the arts pathways,
Right.
the digital design pathways. We do now because charter schools were allowed to innovate. Public schools learned from that. We're able to take those principles and apply it. Why I'm running is because I believe some of those principles that we've learned in a public school setting and a charter school can apply in a public school setting and help our students. Dayspring, we've been one of the highest performing schools for 25 years.
Yeah.
And
Well, results mean something.
results
to be
mean
honest
something.
With you. I
and,
mean, that's,
and we want I want all kids to have that pathway to the future.
Yeah, I do think you can be innovative in your public school systems, and thank you for educating us. That's another reason why we do elephants in the room. I don't look at it as being corrected. I look at it as being educated, because we're talking to the moms, the dads, people who might not know the difference that it is a public school.
Yes.
And so we appreciate you coming in and
Well, thank you.
going
It's a public
over
school
it
with flexibility.
with flexibility. And I do, I know that vocational school, a lot of people are talking about vocation now, right, Sandy?
Oh, yeah.
CTE, yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
I think that's important too.
Well, and that's a huge thing. What I believe is that every child should have the opportunity to go to college, but it doesn't mean everyone is going to go to a 4-year university.
Right.
But it does mean that every child should have the ability to do some sort of post-secondary training.
Right.
If you're a plumber or electrician, you need some post-secondary training.
Yes, you do.
And so what we have to do industry certifications. So what we have to break down that misnomer, it's college or nothing. But what we also is don't mislead our students and say a high school education is enough.
Right.
It's high school plus post-secondary training, some sort of industrial certification, because that's the pathway to success. Pathways to success is allowing those options.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, it is very important that our kids, that we go back to the basics. And I do believe that, as far as Pasco County is concerned and the surrounding counties, I believe that we're doing great. I really do. But, sometimes it takes a different look to come in and say, okay, what can we add to it? What can we, like I said, we got to be teachable. And there's always different ways that these young people are learning.
Yeah.
And it's not one size fits all.
No, and I gotta say that Pasco County is the largest county in the United States that has an elected superintendent.
Right.
We are a large county, and we are becoming a more diverse economic county. The economics and the education of Central Pasco are quite different than that of West Pasco.
Right.
And the needs are different. We have some really high performing schools in Central Pasco.
Right.
But in West Pasco, we have a lot of schools that less than 20% of the students can read at grade level. And and what are we saying to those students on the west side that only 20% can read? They matter too.
Right.
Not just the kids in Wesley Chapel, but the kids in Port Richey matter as well.
Right. And so I'm just so happy that you stopped by today. Is there anything more that you want to know, Sandy? Do you have any more questions?
Well, what I'm going to say, education is such a big issue these days.
It is.
And so we can't cover it all in 16, 15 minutes. So we're going to have you back.
Absolutely. Look
I
forward.
would love to
Thank you,
have you
guys.
back. I do.
Because I want to hear about your dissertation or your doctorate
absolutely.
or whatever.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'd love to hear about that.
So
Absolutely.
we'll save that.
Great.
So we just want you to know too that there's a lot of praying mamas and daddies out there that are praying for our school board.
Absolutely.
They're praying for the teachers. They're praying for the safety of our kids in our school, because I know that's a big deal.
Absolutely.
And like Sandy said, you can't possibly go over everything, but I think we've literacy is very important.
I agree.
And you should know that, the school board's being prayed for, you're being
That's
prayed
great. Thank
for, your family. I know you brought your son in today, and he's a little handsome fella. How old is he?
16.
Oh my God.
15.
15?
I gotta get right.
He's got
Yeah, 16.
He's got
That's
an iPhone.
okay. That's
He's got
okay.
an iPhone.
He does.
They all have iPhones. Even 3-year-olds
But
are
he's
running
listening
around with
right
iPhones.
now.
That's okay.
Yeah,
No, they're fine. I have 3 children. They all went through
I'm guilty.
Pasco, River Ridge, and Gulf High,
Yeah.
and all of those things. And listen, they're very successful. And I just think education is the key to a lot of things. So is putting God first and making sure our children understand the way our country was founded, and all of those things. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and just John.
Just
John.
Yeah, just call me John. That's good enough for me. So thank you.
Well, no, you are very welcome. And Sandy, what do we normally do?
We do our trunks up.
Right,
You know
absolutely,
about
yeah.
it, right?
We do our
So
trunks
that's
up.
Our symbol of good luck
Yeah.
and good fortune, and that's what we do. So
Right.
at
We're
the count of
blessed.
3, we're gonna do trunks up. 1, 2, 3.
Trunks up, everybody. Hey, everybody, John Legg, candidate
Thanks, John.
candidate for supervisor of our schools,
Superintendent.
or superintendent,
I get those all
superintendent
mixed up.
of our schools. And
You get to supervise elections, you get to superintend.
no, well, listen, I'm not perfect, and that's okay. None of us are perfect. So, are the superintendent of Pasco Schools, and Elephants in the Room, presented to you by the Republican Party of Pasco. And make sure that you pray for our school board, pray for wisdom, pray for safety of our children in our school and our teachers. So we love you, Jesus loves you, and you guys go have an Elephants in the Room kind of day.